I've been having a thought as of late because I'm learning some new skills. One of the skills is right now, just give you a heads up, I'm learning to use my phone camera in a different way than I've used it in the past. So I am trying not to be looking in the corner where I used to look, the way that I used to look at it. So we're going to see how this goes. And everybody needs to learn a new skill now and again, and that's by asking the right questions and looking for the right answers in a non-prejudicial way of having your answer already formulated. In this case, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So this is my attempts to be looking right at you guys. So my whole thought process about this is questions. How do we find information? How do we get to know somebody? It's usually by asking questions. But there's a difference between asking questions because you genuinely don't know and questioning because you've already formulated a prejudicial idea in the back of your mind, even if it's a subconscious one, that whatever they will say to you, you can use to pull out of them an aspect that you can use to come against them. Like if you are ever around watching any law show, right? You kind of get that vibe in the courtroom where the lawyers, when they're asking questions of the other side, they're always doing it in such a fashion that they're trying to get that person to prove their point. Like they will try to pull out of them and try to get to the hidden ulterior motives and that kind of stuff, which actually a good prosecuting lawyer, they need those skills. Absolutely. Or if a lawyer is going on the defense of a child who needs a good child advocate, and they are in the court and they're talking to somebody who the child has not been able to get that person to speak what's really going on behind the scenes. That's totally different than asking a question out of the pure, teachable heart because you simply don't have the answer and you don't have the knowledge needed for your own personal sake. And you're reading the Gospels, that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You'll see something that happens all the time. Look for it. You will see a total difference in the way that two groups of people approached Jesus with questions. The disciples asked questions of Jesus because they simply didn't know the answer. They would watch what Jesus was doing and they would come to Jesus would share something with a large group and they didn't understand everything and they would wait till they kind of got, in a smaller group. Imagine going out for coffee after the person that has been your coach has been teaching and you're going, oh, I'm going to wait and ask them how they did that or why they said that, because they simply don't know the answer and they're hoping to learn something new and a new skill. Or just because they want to know more about Jesus, like, hey guy, I love you, I want to know more. I want to know you as a person, right? And then you got people in the New Testament who followed Jesus everywhere he went, just like the disciples did, but they were there to gain as much so-called evidence that Jesus was a heretic, that Jesus was evil, that Jesus was blasphemous. They were looking for proof to prove what they felt was the truth about Jesus. They had already formed a very strong opinion, and every question they asked Jesus was not to gain knowledge and did not come from a teachable heart. A few of them did, but the large majority not. Nicodemus is definitely one who was asking Jesus just out of a pure teachable heart. But the rest of these guys, every chance they had was like, wait a minute, Jesus, why did you let your disciples do this on the Sabbath? Not like, hey, Jesus, we noticed that disciples were picking grain on the Sabbath, and we kind of thought that's going against what we've been taught. Can you explain more? You see the difference between, hey, Jesus, look what they're doing. Aren't you going to stop them? So I think there's a lot of us who, perhaps because of wounds in our past, the way that we have been wounded by people in leadership, etc., we could have a tendency to look at leadership with subconscious prejudice that everything that they do, or much of what they say and they do, or their approach and how they do something, that there's a hidden motivation, that they're manipulating, that they're showing off, that they're unapproachable or whatever. And so we might be asking questions, but we are hurt by the response. And that could be because that leader, being a human being, can tell the difference between being questioned and having somebody ask a question. So if you found that innocent questions you're asking are not getting the response that you would hope that they would be, perhaps ask yourself, are you trusting the individual who's going to be responding to you with an answer that, even if it's an answer that is difficult for you to accept at the moment, that they gave you that answer out of total honesty, without any bias or secret agenda? This is a bit of a longer spiel than I usually give, but I just felt today. Do you know the difference in your heart when you're asking a genuine question of someone because you don't know the answer, and when you're questioning them to prove to yourself that your preconceived idea and notion about that individual will be justified by their answer or their lack of a satisfactory answer to your question?